Welcome to the Actually You Can podcast. I'm Myf Galloway, a performance coach passionate about supporting ambitious and high-performing women just like you who know they have untapped potential just waiting to be unleashed. If you're looking to massively up-level your performance in all areas of life, you've come to the right place. My goal on this podcast is to take you beneath the surface so you can connect with yourself on a deeper level while providing you with valuable insights and the tools necessary to navigate life's challenges and go after your goals with strength, clarity, and wisdom. If you're ready to uncover the truth which lies underneath so you can recognize your powerful feminine leadership style, pursue your goals unapologetically, and thrive in every aspect of your life, hit the follow button and get ready to explore the incredible possibilities that lie within you. Together, we'll uncover your next steps in achieving peak performance, because actually, you can. Hello. It has been a hot minute since I've come on here and recorded a solo podcast episode. And really the main reason for that is I had a baby. So little Kennedy is now 12 weeks old, and I took a little bit of a hiatus from recording solo podcast episodes since I've made the transition to motherhood, but I am back. My heart is super full. I have a few more bags under my eyes than I had beforehand, but I'm feeling ready to come back on here and record some solo podcast episodes, and I'm super stoked about it. And also during my hiatus from podcasting, I had a really cool opportunity to rethink my business and how I wanted to show up and how I feel I could add the most value. And my transition to motherhood really highlighted for me that what I love to do is support people in redefining their identities. And I guess that was really highlighted in the transition to motherhood, because you're not the same person that you used to be. For a lot of women, you've stopped work for a period of time. You now have to care for another human being who is fully dependent on you. And you have this awesome opportunity to recreate yourself. And it's something that I realized I've done a number of times in a variety of different capacities throughout my life, whether it's been in different work environments. I've been everything from a retail store manager, worked in hospitality, worked in project management, worked in marketing, been a business owner, and now more formally working in training and development. I've also reinvented myself a number of times as an athlete. I was a professional road cyclist, and I have also competed at a national level for Olympic weightlifting. And so what I've come to realize is there is a formula for being successful in new identities, and that more importantly, you have the ability to create whatever fucking identity that you want for yourself. And so that's really what I love to do and what I'll be focusing on in my business moving forward. And that's really what I want to talk about in today's podcast episode is all around identity. And what I mean by that is because essentially, if you're looking to create any sort of change in your life, you need to change if you want things to change. And I'll repeat that again. You need to change if you want things to change. This is not just another catchphrase, it's the foundation for every transformation in your life. So if you're feeling frustrated, you've been hitting a wall, or you just know that something's got to give, then this episode is for you. And so I really want you to take away that real transformation doesn't happen by waiting for the world to change. A lot of us are waiting for something disastrous to happen, for us to be forced to make a change. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed, and this is something that I'm hearing a lot at the moment, people are saying, oh, I just need to push through and get a break over Christmas. And essentially, if you're waiting for something external to happen to you for you to change, then you're playing a victim role in your own life and you're taking a back seat in your life. Real transformation starts with changing your identity. And when you change from the inside out, your world will follow. And so if you're sitting here like, what the hell is an identity anyway? I want to take a few moments to clarify what I mean when I talk about identity. And so for me, identity is anything that comes after the statement, I am. And quite simply, I think it's the combination of the things we think, feel, say, and do. And the really powerful thing about identities is we are so set on proving ourselves right
If we say, I am something, our minds will continually look for evidence to prove ourselves right. So that is why I focus a lot of my attention on identity work. And where I think a lot of people get tied up is they say their identity is just one thing. Whereas I see identity comprises a number of different parts of yourself. And so what I mean by that is often people talk about their identity. First thing they'll talk about is their work. And I know for me, I used to tie my identity and who I was to my work. Probably the first example of this was when I was cycling professionally. That was my whole identity. And I didn't realize how caught up I was in that until I was told, because of a medical reason, to take 6 weeks off the bike. And I had no idea what to do with myself because the thing that I identified as, I was no longer able to do. And that caused a whole range of issues for me. And so what I've come to learn is the identity is all the different parts of what make me me. So in this current phase, it is what I do for work, working in training development as a personal trainer, as a coach, and then obviously the host of this podcast as well. It's also, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a dog owner. I'm someone who loves to exercise, who loves the outdoors, who loves a good decaf coffee at the moment. And it's all the bits that make you you. It's not just one thing. And upon reflection about identity, I've come to know that you can create different identities for yourself at any given point in time. And so what came to mind when I was thinking about this was over the years, I've actually called myself different things based on the identity that I have been. So, what I mean by that is when I was cycling, I know people who I've met during my time cycling because they will call me Miffy, and Miffy was spelt with an I. And so, during the time when I was cycling, that person I called Miffy, and everyone who knew me at that time still calls me Miffy. I then went on to join the fitness industry and own the gyms, and I changed the spelling of my name to Miffy with a Y, and my business name was Miffy G. And so during that period of my life, Miffy G was my identity, and I know people who know me from that phase of my life call me Miffy with a Y. And I've since evolved, and now I call myself Myf. And so I know people who have met me during this phase of my life call me Myf, and that is who I'm choosing to be in this particular chapter of my life. And I feel that this identity is one that's going to hang around for quite some time. I'm really excited about exploring the different parts of my identity as Myf. But who knows? I might evolve this again. I don't know quite how I'm going to shorten my name even further. Maybe I'll just be like full gangster and call myself M or something like that. Or maybe I'll just go full circle and call myself by my full name when I'm old. I'd probably first have to learn how to pronounce my full name accurately. If anyone knows how to do that, feel free to voice message me on DM. I'm open to taking lessons. But what I mean when I say identity is I really want you to take away that identity is not just one thing, it's all of the things that make you you. And it is something that you can choose to change at any given point in time. You don't need to wait for something to happen to you to change. And often we wait for something to happen to us to change because it's really, really hard to change. We have been who we've been our whole lives. And it's, and as a fun fact for you, by the time you hit 35, your brain has essentially carved out a roadmap for how you view the world. So your core beliefs, habits, and thought patterns are deeply ingrained by that age. And a really easy way to highlight that is I'm not sure if anyone has tried to convince their parents of something or educate them on a different point of view on life. I know personally it's quite challenging, but I don't blame them. They've spent 60 plus odd years thinking they're the way they have. And so to ask them to see something different is quite challenging because it's challenging everything they know to be true to date. And so, with that, the first few decades of life are like the foundation for our house. The experiences, the environment, and the people around us shape how that foundation is built. And as a child, our brain is a sponge, absorbing everything. And by adulthood, much of it becomes automatic, like an internal software in the background. And so, essentially, if you don't make a conscious effort to change, you're going to keep creating more of the same. We're going to keep running the same program on repeat. But here's the kicker, it's not all doom and gloom. Just because you've been running this default setting for decades, it doesn't mean that you're stuck there. Sure, 95% of your beliefs are formed, but the mind's plasticity doesn't suddenly evaporate at 35.
With enough awareness and intention, you can still rewire that software, challenge those deep seated beliefs, and reinvent the way you see the world. Growth doesn't expire, it just requires a bit more active participation as we get older. And another thing that is important to take note of is the external world often reflects our internal world. When we feel stuck or unfulfilled, it shows up in our relationships, our careers, and even our health. So here's the key: look inward. If you want things to change, then it starts with you. And so, how do we begin this process? Well, like with everything, it starts with awareness. And so, if we're looking to create a change and that we know that change starts with changing ourselves, then we start with self reflection. We ask ourselves the hard questions and we commit to being brutally honest with ourselves. So, some questions you can ask yourself is, what's not working in my life? Or where am I feeling stuck or disconnected? Answering these questions is not comfortable, but growth by nature never is. And so a lot of people won't even ask themselves these questions, often because they're scared of the result. Because if they ask them, what's not working in my life? If they are truthful in their answer, they might answer something that is so wildly different from their current reality that they couldn't fathom how they could possibly pivot their current reality to what they wish it to be. And so sometimes we just don't even bother asking the question because we know we don't think it's possible to have anything different, or we don't see the way to creating difference. And another reason why people might not answer these questions or answer them truthfully is because they're scared of the change. So if things aren't working in your relationship and we're honest with ourselves about that, then what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for your relationship? Or you have to therefore have the hard conversations. And so if you're someone who is committed to making it a change, then you need to be committed to asking yourself the hard questions and being really truthful about it. The first step to getting unstuck is being brutally honest with yourself about where you're at. And if you're feeling stuck or off track, chances are there's a disconnect between who you are and who you wish to be. And recognizing that gap is the first step toward transformation. And now here's where it gets really juicy. So, true transformation, as I've mentioned, involves changing who you are. That is, it requires shifting your identity. It's not just about changing your behavior or forcing yourself into new habits. And that's where people fall short. And what's kind of wild to think about is our conscious mind, the one that we're aware of, the part that makes decisions, solves problems, and thinks logically on a day to day basis, only controls about 5% of our total mental capacity. The other 95% is run by our unconscious mind, like the behind the scenes powerhouse pulling the strings. This is where your automatic behaviors, deep seated beliefs, memories, emotions, and patterns reside. Everything you don't actively think about that constantly shapes your actions and reactions. And so, if you imagine your mind as an iceberg, what you see above the water is your conscious mind, is tiny compared to what is submerged, which is the unconscious mind. And so, while you might think you're in control because you're making all the decisions most of the time, it's your unconscious mind calling the shots without you even knowing. From how you react to stress, to what you believe about your worth, to the habits you repeat, it's all happening in that massive, unseen mental landscape. And the craziest part, you don't have to consciously think about it. It's just running in the background, constantly influencing the way you show up in the world. So if you don't change how you see yourself at your core, in other words, if you don't change your identity, any changes you try to make will be short lived and superficial at best. So, for example, if you think you're not good enough, no matter how hard you work to change your habits and environment, that belief will keep sabotaging your progress. True transformation begins when you realign with the identity of the person that you're looking to become. And this is the core of the work I love to do as an identity alignment specialist. And yes, I made that up because I was trying to find a mold that I fit in with my work and I couldn't. And it seems quite fitting that I just made this up, given that my line of work and what I'm really passionate about is creating your own identity and helping to redefine what that is and just help you step into it. And so by changing the way you see yourself, your choices and outcomes will naturally flow. And so The first step in terms of being able to redefine your identity is being really clear on what is working in your life and what needs to change. And once you've gotten really clear on that, you need to take a deeper look at your reality and identify the gap between where you are currently and where you wish to be. And so, some other questions you can start asking yourself are, how do you define yourself right now? And does that definition align with who you want to be? Or are there old beliefs or habits holding you back from stepping into that new identity? So let's be real. Most of us have big dreams, right? Our lives might be fantastic just as they are, but they could always be better. So we might want to get healthier. We might want to build more fulfilling relationships or achieve career success and experience inner peace. But how often do our actions align with those desires? There's often a massive gap between what we want and what we're actually doing. For example, we want to work out, but we can't stick to a routine. We dream of changing careers, but we keep putting it off. We long for balance, but we are stuck in the same old patterns of overwork and burnout. It's frustrating, but it's also completely normal. And I'll say that again. It's frustrating, but it's also completely normal. We tend to repeat familiar patterns even if they no longer serve us because they feel safe, even when they're holding us back. And that is because our mind is designed to keep us safe. It's not designed to make us happy. And it all comes down to us reinforcing limiting beliefs that we have. And so we learned that 95% of our mental capacity is unconscious. And part of that unconscious mind is our beliefs. And so often we have these limiting beliefs. They are beliefs that are keeping us small, that are hindering our progress towards our goal that we don't even know about. And these beliefs often come from our past experiences, things that we're told growing up, or even societal expectations. For example, you might want to change careers, but deep down you think, I'm not good enough for that. Or maybe you want to prioritize self care, but your internal dialogue says, I'm too busy. And so, even with the best intentions, these limiting beliefs prevent us from taking actions. But here's the truth: those limiting beliefs only have power when we hold on to them as part of our identity. And to break free from them, we need to shift our self perception. You can have all the desires in the world, but unless you believe that you're the kind of person who can make those desires a reality, those beliefs will keep pulling you back. And this is what I help my clients do: realign their identity so their actions start reflecting the person they wish to become. When your internal story shifts, your actions naturally follow. And that's the essence of identity alignment. It's not about changing what you do, it's about changing who you believe yourself to be. And there's a variety of different ways that we can do this. For some people, it can be just simply a case of being really clear on what sort of person they wish to be and consciously identifying where those gaps are. But for a lot of us, it involves doing deep work. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients involves tapping into your unconscious mind, identifying those limiting beliefs that are holding them back from stepping into that identity that they wish to be, and releasing them and re embedding more empowering beliefs that support their new identity. And so I can't cover all of that on a podcast for you today, but what I do want to share are some really practical tips that you can do to start to move yourself closer to that identity that you want to become. And so the first one is a visualization exercise. And I know there's people out there rolling their eyeballs at the thought of doing visualization exercises, but there is a reason why the top athletes in the world do them. And so one of the ways that I can explain this is, if you've ever had a nightmare that feels so real, even though you know it's fake, it's because that particular visualization, that's what it was, came into your mind when your mind was in a really suggestible state. And in that moment, it didn't know if it was real or it was fake. And essentially that's what we can do with our mind, is we can play a movie in our mind and create a visualization of our future. And if we do it when our mind is in a meditative state, our mind is quite suggestible. It won't be able to tell the difference between what is real and what is fake. And so you can visualize yourself as the identity that you wish to become, and your mind thinks that you're already there. And so by default, then you will start to attract things that align with that identity. And so, how you can do this is obviously don't do this if you're driving, but take a moment to close your eyes and imagine yourself as the person you want to become. What does your life look like? How does this version of you feel? What do they believe about themselves? And take a moment to fully step into this vision. Even better if you can start to tune into some noises in this vision. Use the five senses. Can you see anything in particular? Can you smell anything particular? Maybe there's a taste. I don't know if the elevated version of you is dining at five-star restaurants. Maybe there's a particular taste. I don't know. But bring in all of the senses and make the picture really clear in your mind of what your life looks like at this next level, in this next identity, in this next evolution of your identity. And even better is when you've got this picture, write it down on a piece of paper and ask yourself, what insights did you have? What actions or belief did this future version of you embody that you can start embracing today? And the thing again with this exercise is that a lot of people won't do it because they're afraid. They're afraid that what they want isn't what they're currently experiencing, and they have no idea how they can even take the first step to getting what they want, or they're afraid of the impact of going after what they want will have on their current reality and the people around them. And so that's something that I love supporting clients with. It's grounding that fear and allowing them to confidently start making progress to that evolved identity. If there's anything that I hope I can support people with in this lifetime, it's to help remove fear as an obstacle that is stopping people from living the life that they want to live and living something that is truly fulfilling. So that's the first exercise is visualization. And something else you can do is identify role models. I think this is another really underestimated tool that people can use. Uh, and so for this one, what you'll do is identify a role model who embodies the qualities you want to adopt. So have a think about who inspires you. What traits do they have that you admire? Maybe it's confidence, resilience, or their approach to life. And I want to also say that don't have to admire everything that this person does. So you might really admire how this person approaches business, but they have a really shitty home life. Or you might really admire how this person has great relationships with their family. So when you're looking at role models, you don't have to admire everything about them. Pick the one area of life that interests you the most and look to role model that. And I know I'm not sure if this will resonate with any of the listeners, but for me, role modeling, I always thought that to be like copying. And I'm like, why would I want to copy someone? Like, I'm my own person. I want to live my own life. But it's important to remember if you're having the same thought, by default of you being you, if you role model someone, you'll automatically put your own flair on it. So you can role model someone to the best of your ability, but you will still be you. So don't use that as an excuse. Pick a role model, find out exactly how they go about living the life that you want in that particular area of life, and then start to embody it in your own way. So you've got those two exercises. The last thing I want to remind you about is when you're looking to create a new identity and step into that evolved identity, start small. Choose one thing today that aligns with the person you want to become. It could be setting a healthy boundary, saying no to something that doesn't serve you, or starting a new habit like drinking more water or journaling for 10 minutes. Small actions build momentum and help you shift into the new identity. Remember, change isn't a one-time event. It's practice. You don't you can't expect to eat one salad and suddenly be healthy or suddenly to lose 5 kilos. As you shift your mindset and take action, you need to show up consistently. It's all about embodying the new version of yourself every day, even in small amounts. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Consistency is key. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you on today's podcast episode. The key takeaway is that transformation begins with you. You have the power to change the way you see yourself, which will change the way you show up in the world and how the world appears to you. And this is the work that I love to support clients with. And coming up, I'm super, super excited to support particularly people who are feeling really stretched thin and who might be experiencing signs of burnout this year and who are really looking forward to the holidays, because I want to support these people to feel really energized, fulfilled, and thrive in 2025. And so I have put together a really special package for anyone who resonates with this. It is a 4-session one-on-one program, and I'll put more details in the show notes. But if you wish to change your identity from someone who is burnt out to someone who is really thriving, who feels fulfilled and energized in 2025, then the work starts now. And so if you're feeling called to embody this identity in 2025, click the link in the show notes to learn more about this program, or shoot me a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Myf Galloway. I would love to support you to make 2025 a year that you ditch the identity of burnout for good and you start stepping into a more powerful version of you. So thanks for tuning in. It's such a pleasure to be back, and I look forward to sharing more solo episodes in the weeks to come. If you have any questions about today's episode, or if there's any topics you would like to see on the show, particularly on identity and how you can be the person who achieves the sorts of goals that you wish to achieve in your life, then DM me at Myf Galloway on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And in the meantime, keep going after your big goals, because actually, you can. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope this was helpful. If you thought of someone while listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could share this episode with them. While you're doing that, please also take a moment to leave a review on the podcast if you haven't yet already. It takes less than a minute and it means so much to me and helps this podcast to reach more people just like you. Thank you so much for that, and I'll see you in the next episode. In the meantime, go out and achieve every dream you have, because actually, you can.